All right, my couture crafters, let's get into this spooky card. What did I do here? I just cut down a panel at 3 1/4 by 7. It's a little panel. You know I like my cards long and skinny. And that is a circle that just happened to be sitting on my desk from my other Halloween project. And I was so thankful that it was sitting there. So I have it hanging off a little bit, nothing special there. I tried the Distress Oxide on this color paper and no, it's a fail. The oxide is lighter than the paper and it wasn't giving me the effect I was looking for. Remember, we use different brushes and oxides than we do in the dye. You can't mix them. So I grabbed my Altenew. I think this is the gentleman set. I think it's something about a gentleman or something like that. It's one of their grays, their gray sets, and I'm using the two darkest colors to give this a kind of spooky, eerie kind of card feeling. And I'm using this brush from Tailored Expressions. I am really trying to get my money's worth out of these two sets and really try to learn about blending with brushes because that's new to me. So I'm going around the edges and I like what I see. I like the way that these brushes are pulling the color in. I like that I can see the color. It looks spooky. I am so annoyed that people make background stamps and stencils 6 by 6. Why can't they be 7 by something? I don't know. I'm annoyed. People in these stupid 5 1/4 by 4.5 cards just annoy me to no end. I don't like that size. And I'm waiting for a company that really feels me. Although Crafter's Companion, and this is Crafter's Companion, makes larger stuff. And they make stuff that's large enough for 5 by 7, which is huge to me. Come on, somebody make something for me specifically. We'll see. Anyway, I'm using this stencil and I'm using the brush and I'm not going in circular motions. I'm just kind of brushing it on there. I've got my fingers supporting the neck of the brush and I'm not trying to be super neat about it. I'm not trying to tape it down so that it doesn't move because I kind of look at how eerie that feels. Like, don't you feel like it's foggy and you're walking through the fog? I like it. I ripped a sheet of paper that was sitting on my desk to kind of ground these birch trees because they're so short. I've got a 7 inch panel and I had to kind of move them up and move them down and move them around. So I call myself grounding them. I am not a scene builder. It is not my gift. I do not see in that way. I am not an artist in that way. I know a few tricks here and there. And so I'm trying to ground it. I'm trying to make the trees not be floating in thin air. I'm trying to give this card some dimension, some front and back, and there's what we have. Not what I should have done is flip the card, flip that white sheet of paper upside down. That's okay. Not a big deal. We're just gonna go with it. You craft and you learn. Anyway, still using the same Altenew inks. Those are dye inks with the Tailored Expression brush. Purple tape is the best tape ever. I wanted these trees to be super jet black. It was a fail because I was too lazy to get some super black ink. Instead, I just grabbed this Distress Oxide and I went over it. Again, not trying to be super duper careful. I am just using the foam applicator because I wanted a lot of color in this area and there's no black brush. So I would have had to use the gray brush and I am very particular about cross contaminating my stuff. I'm very, very particular about cleaning things and what can't be dipped in others. Like, I'm a weirdo when it comes to stuff like that and I will admit it. That's why I really don't like people using my things. I'm removing the mask. I wish I had done that prior to doing the darker birch trees because they should have gone in front of the moon. Oh well. Then I just took the brush and dusted a little color in there to kind of give the moon some dimension. This is a 3D embossing folder. Haven't seen me use one of these on my channel in a while, if ever. I like this. It is such a cool embossing folder. So what you do is you sandwich it. That was the wrong sandwich. I found the right sandwich. So you put it between, make your sandwich and slide it through the machine the same way you do with dyes, and it leaves an impression on the paper. Look, there's trees. I like the way this came out. I wasn't sure if it was going to interrupt the birch trees, but it didn't. It just looks like a dark, spooky forest. I'm doing a little trim here because the way I put it in there left some creases in some areas I didn't want it. No, not a problem. I just trimmed it off a little bit, and we will work with this panel trim down. I knew that I wanted to put it on some black 110 black 110 pound cardstock. So I think I cut this down to 7 1/4 by 7. Maybe 7 1/4. Yeah, maybe 7 1/4 by 7, something along those lines. I just wanted to mat it. And yeah, it must have been 7 because I think I did this at 3 1/2. Watch when I fold it. Watch what happens to the paper. This is why we do not use bone folders that are not that Teflon bone folder. You're going to be able to see what happened. Did you see it? It's like super shiny on that black cardstock. You'll see it in a second. This is why you always use your Teflon bone folder that does not leave impressions on your paper. So I just wanted a sliver of orange around the cardstock. I didn't measure with the ruler. I measured by eye and just marked it with a pencil because, again, I wanted a sliver, which really probably is still 1/16. My eye is usually pretty good with stuff like that. So instead of having an eighth border, I think this is 1/16 all around. It's pretty good. There's a little more room on the top, and it was bothering me. So when you want to get like a super straight, fast, thin slice, grab a guillotine trimmer, and that's what that is right there. And you just, whoop, and there you go. Watch your fingers because it will take off a nail. And now we have a nice sliver of orange around the cardstock. You see that? Teflon. No marks, no indentations, nothing. That's why I love that thing. That thing is expensive. It's $20 for that bone folder. I'm using wet glue in case I got to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. When you use tape runner, you don't have... See, look where my left hand is. You see that? That bright, shiny... That's from folding that paper with that stupid yellow plastic bone folder. Do not use those, guys. Get a Teflon bone folder. I use wet glue when I want to be able to wiggle things around. And I'm just throwing a gray panel on the inside of the card so that I can write without using a gel pen or a white pen, which I could have done. But for this design, I just decided to put the gray panel. Also, when I cut a sheet of paper, I toss the scraps. I do not keep scraps. I just don't. I know people think it's wasteful, yada, yada, yada. So, but I try to use as much of the paper as I can because the rest of it's going in the trash can. I have enough scraps for a lifetime, and I have enough paper for a lifetime. I don't think I'll ever be able to use all the paper that I have. So I'm not really particular about trying to save every last piece. When I was doing my last project, I cut out 1,000,000 bats, and I was trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do with them. And so this card was the answer to that, except I only used 4 bats, which, not enough. This is a stamp set by Tailored Expressions. You guys know that I talk about this stamp set all the time. My card sets, all that. Now you're finally going to get to see it in action. I'm using a clear ink here, and I'm going to emboss. I'm going to do some heat embossing. The heat embossing was a fail in a way. I wasn't paying attention to what powder I was using, and I thought I was using a silver opaque powder. Instead, I was using a silver like tinted. It's like, like an iridescent tint. So if I had been using an actual color, it would have given it a silver-ish tint as opposed to actually just being silver. It was such a fail. It looks good here, right? You can see all of the sentiments, and look at those squares on the side. Those squares are important. You will see why in just a moment. So I'm pouring everything back into my little thing, and now you see what happened. It is not silver. It is now clear on top of black. I have decided that makes it even cooler. Yep, I've decided, because guess who will not be restamping this and finding a different embossing powder. I wanted orange, but the orange I have was not the right orange. I'm lining up those squares on the side with the squares on this die. Now I'm taping it in place. The squares fit into those little squares. And watch, I'm going to run this through the machine, and whoop, I have 10 sentiments ready to go. Love the idea of this. Sentiments are my least favorite part of card making, and this just makes it so that I have some on hand all the time for whatever. Look at that. You see that on the left-hand side? That just line, that demarcation. Oh, that annoys me. You do not use a plastic bone folder, guys. It is not great. So here I'm just trying to figure out what sentiment I want to use. Again, I've decided to go with the fact that I've got this clear on this black. It makes it kind of interesting. It actually makes it really interesting in my mind, but whatever. That was not what was supposed to be happening. Really wanted it to be orange, and that was a fail. Using the world's best glitter, that's that art glitter glue. I get more questions about what glue I use than anything else I do. What glue is that? What glue is that? Art glitter glue. It sounds like you shouldn't use it for all the things that I use it for, but it's just an amazing adhesive. Get hip to it. It's special. So I'm putting this down and I'm using my favorite tweezers. I think those are by Tweezer Bee. And I like them because you don't have to hold them closed. They're already closed. You have to pinch them open. And when you have long nails, and we know I have long nails and they're not going anywhere, you've got to have the right tools to be able to help you get the job done. Yep. I touched a little glue there. I wiped it off with my hand and you can't see it because this is the best glue ever. I grabbed some Tim Holtz pumpkins. I wanted to use those too, and I don't know if I'll be doing another spooky card this year. So I'm like, you better get in where you can fit in. And then I decided I wanted to do a ton of stamping. Of course, I am using Catherine Pooler ink. This is dye ink on this shiny cardstock. It actually absorbs into the cardstock. It doesn't sit on top. So I was able to kind of go over where I was before without smearing it. You can smear it if you touch it immediately, but for the most part, you're safe. Look, and then I just stamped a bunch of pumpkins. I love making my own pattern paper, guys. I love it, love it, love it. I have a teacup card here on my channel where I made my own pattern paper, and I want to redo that for the holidays, so look out for that. I think we've got a teapot holiday card coming. And I'm just going through in little spaces, and I am stamping Trick or Treat. I don't know why. I just wanted a super tight, cluttered feeling cardstock. I knew I wanted to place the pumpkins kind of close together. I'm taking a sheet of paper and just dabbing it to make sure that I'm not smearing the ink. Love my envelope maker. If you are a card person, I think you should have this. Get it at Michael's or Joann's and use a coupon. Try to shoot for a 50 or even a 60 if you can. And this is well worth it. So we're just going around scoring. This is the only time you're allowed to use a plastic bone folder. Watch. I bet you I grab my Teflon though when it's time to fold it. I bet you I do. I just use the plastic one to score. Really like the size of this envelope. I think the card ended up measuring like 7.5 by 3.5, or that's the measurement that I used. See, I grabbed the Teflon bone folder. It is expensive, but it is worth it. It's like one of those tools I can't live without. I don't know how to explain it. It's just magical. And I got that off of Amazon, I think. So now I'm deciding which part I want to be the top. The bottom part can come all the way up to that line. Remember, I told you guys last time, when you are doing rectangular cards, sometimes you have some overlap. So the one on the top, I cut a lot shorter because I seal my envelopes and I want to seal right about the center. See that? So we're going to use some double-sided adhesive to close this up. I needed something strong because remember, this is paper that is non-porous, technically, sort of. So we're going to close it. You see how high that card comes up? Do you see how high it goes up? Yes. And there, that one comes down a little bit further, but kind of in the middle so that it's not all the way down at the bottom. I hope this is making sense. And now we're pouring our wax. You guys have seen me do this a bazillion times. Why on earth can't I get a good wax impression for my video? What the heck is going on? This was not a complete fail, but it is not how I wanted it to go. I'm using my Hufflepuff seal because, I don't know, Harry Potter looks spooky even though it's not spooky. And it felt right. Love it. You guys, thanks for hanging out with me, and I will catch you on the next video. Questions below.